Hi everyone, my name is Yehia Badawy. Excited to be with you here today. I'm a co-founder at Rain. Rain is a MENA-based company that offers people the ability to buy, sell, and store cryptocurrency. We're licensed by the Central Bank of Bahrain. We're also operating in Turkey, and we serve the GCC and MENA region. So let's get started with our topic today. I'm going to be talking about 5 must-knows when building a startup. This is based on our journey and how we have our product today and the things that we did to get to where we are today. The first thing is obviously putting your customers first. I'm sure all of you have heard this before, but you sometimes find yourself thinking about other facets of the product that don't involve your customers. Without customers, you don't have a product. So the first thing you need to do is really understand who are you trying to serve and why are you trying to serve them? What is the purpose that you're building this product? And the way we did that at Rain was we did a lot of research early on into the different needs for crypto assets or cryptocurrencies in the region. And we spoke to close to 100 people around their needs. What are they currently doing to fulfill these needs? And what are the gaps in the existing products or services that they're using? And then for the first 1,000 customers that were onboarded on Rain, each one of them was onboarded personally, where we spent time with them during the onboarding session. We recorded their screens. We went through each step and tried to get their input, whether on the content, on the text, how the different steps that they needed to take. Our product or our service is regulated, and that requires us to collect specific information from our customers in order to serve them. So there are different ways to do that, and understanding how people experience those different steps and what you can do to improve is very, very important, especially early on when you're still deciding what is the first iteration of the product going to look like. And this is a principle that we carry today. Whenever we introduce anything new, we always have a cohort of our customers where we test these different ideas with them and get feedback. For example, something as simple as, what is your reference price for Bitcoin? Where do you actually find out what the price is? And we used to look at how people derived what is the price of Bitcoin, what was their reference price. And that was very important for us to understand how our pricing would be compared to other offerings that are out there. The second thing you have to think about is, this is an experiment. Whatever you're doing, it's something that's not static. It will always change. And if you try and build the most perfect thing quickly, you won't really get there, and you might be disappointed in the process. So my suggestion is always to fail fast. I know we all hear about this, but it's sometimes hard, especially if you have a bit of a perfectionist side. You might spend too long building and not pushing your product or your idea out and getting feedback. So you have limited time, you have limited resources. You want to make sure that you're very agile and you have this attitude where everything can be improved. You just have to get started. And this is something that we empower all our team members with. We make sure they know that there is room to be able to fail. Your first iteration doesn't have to be the best iteration. You just have to get there. And make sure that you're learning as much as possible from each one. And there's always going to be a lesson, whether in how the product looks like, in the process that you got through to publish this new version or new iteration, how you work together, your QA process. It might be even how you communicate or the meetings that you have around the product. So there's always a lesson to learn, and you should have this mindset across your journey. Not falling into analysis paralysis is another big one. Generally, you won't find that you have all the information you need to move forward. You sometimes have to make decisions with 50% of the information or 70% of the information. And that's okay. You don't have to have all the information, but the most important thing is don't get stuck in trying to analyze the best course of action and then not actually taking any steps. So it's better to move forward, publish whatever it is that you have, learn from it, and keep growing. And that's why we say fail fast. Ultimately, you will get much more information if you have something tangible, something that you can show your potential customers, your team members, rather than discussing an idea. So make sure you have bias towards action, and you're not waiting for all the information to come in for you to make your next move. The next thing I'll talk about is using connections that you've built in life. A great example for this is when we wanted to expand to Turkey. Now, I had never been to Turkey, and so had my co-founders. None of them had been to Turkey before, but we understood that there's a great opportunity for us in Turkey, and we wanted to make sure that we understood the market, we learned about the market before we decided to expand there. So we actually got together, AJ and I, my co-founder, and we started to think through who are the people that we know who are either Turkish, in Turkey, have been to Turkey, or know people in Turkey, or just spoke about Turkey at some point. And we reached out to pretty much the entire list, and within a few days, we actually set up 25 meetings in 5 days, and we flew to Turkey pretty much the next week. And we met with bankers, lawyers, startups that are in the same space, customers, people who are buying, selling, storing crypto, regulators, and the entire ecosystem there. Despite the trip being 5 days, we learned a lot through those meetings, and we were able to figure out our next steps based on that trip. So instead of waiting for the perfect trip, we pieced together all the people that we knew and made sure that we leveraged their connections and went to meet with those people. An important note here is don't reach out to someone if you're not prepared. It's better to prepare your thoughts, your ideas, do your research, and have some very specific questions when reaching out to people that you want to get their input on something. So instead of saying, hi, how does this thing work? You can try a different approach where you gain as much information as possible. And when you first interact with the person, you can say, this is what I've learned so far. This is my hypothesis, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. People will appreciate that much more than just coming in and saying, hi, can you teach me everything you know about this topic? So that's just something to keep in mind when leveraging the connections that you've built. You never know, it could be an aunt, a high school friend, ex-coworker, ex-boss, someone that can help connect you to someone that is relevant to whatever it is that you're trying to find out. Not focusing on competition is an important one. Very seldom will you find truly green or blue ocean. So you always, whatever it is that you're trying to do, someone's probably thought of it maybe in a different way, in a different context, but there is something that's out there similar to what you're trying to do. When we first started, there were a few companies operating, serving the region that we're serving or that we intended to serve. And we understood what's out there, but we had a different way of wanting to build the company. We wanted a regulated company. And actually, no one in the region was licensed or even approached regulators to start a conversation around crypto assets or cryptocurrencies. And we reached out to the Central Bank of Bahrain. We established a connection with them. We were later invited to their sandbox. So had we looked at the competition, none of them had actually done that. And we could have copied what they've done, but that wouldn't have gotten us to where we are today. And so it's very important not to think too much about what everyone is doing. Usually, whatever space you're in, there's enough room for more than one player to operate. The way we look at competition is it elevates the ecosystem, it improves the conversation around crypto, whether it's in social circles, within regulatory circles, within fintech circles. But ultimately, the more companies that are trying to build in this space, the better it is for all of us. When you build your product, make sure you're not getting caught up in what your competition is doing, because they might not be doing what the market needs, or there might be an opportunity for you to do things differently. So while it's good to be aware of who the competition is and what people are looking at, but ultimately focus on building, focus on customers, and that's where you'll get the best impact. When we built our product, we obsessively took a look at our first 100 customers when we were building Rain, and we just spoke to them. What do they want? What's missing? And ultimately, we came up with our own conclusions of how we want to build this company and how we wanted to build our product. We didn't really look at competition or what competitors were doing, but on a macro level, you have to look at what's missing from everything and give that to your future customers. So these 5 tips might seem simple and straightforward. It's more about the mindset and how you actually implement your ideas and how you go about the different steps that you need to take in order to have a winning product. So I'm going to bring up Noor, who will be having conversation with us.
Amazing. Yehia, thank you. I'm sure I'm going to rewatch that many times, as simple as they were. I think they were incredibly insightful. I have a lot of questions. Okay, so I hope you're ready.
Of course. Absolutely.
So let's get started. On your first point, you were talking about listening to users. So my question for you is, what are some of the ways that early stage founders who are listening to this right now can listen to their users?
It's very important not to, as you speak to different people, you might think that you've built a pretty good understanding of what is required to build your product. But I'd say approach every conversation as if it's brand new, as if you have zero information and you have a clean slate. This allows you not to guide the person you're interviewing into a specific path that you've already determined, and rather allows you to just be present and listen to what they're saying, really pick up on the terms, and don't assume that you know what something means. So, a very simple example that I like to give is when someone says, "Oh, I'd love a delicious meal right now." What I consider a delicious meal might not be the same as what you would consider, Noor. So making sure you actually really understand what people are saying and don't gloss over a word here or there, which might open up a whole new conversation and unlock further insights.
Okay, and obviously, as you have these conversations, you generate a huge amount of information. So my next question is, how can founders filter out the noise? Because probably not everything you hear is something that you can then integrate into your product and solution. So what's the signal noise differentiation here?
Ultimately, you have to decide who are you trying to serve. When speaking to different people, understand that you're going to have extreme users. So people who are on the tail ends of their users, if you were to plot them on a graph. And you don't want to build an average product for the masses. What you want to start building is something very specific to a specific set of users who are going to obsess over what you're building. And the important factor there is understand that you can't build the perfect product that serves everyone 100% of their needs. Rather, understand and categorize your user segments and then figure out which segment you want to serve first. In our context, you find your pro or extreme traders, people who trade multiple times a day. They're using advanced tools and platforms to buy, sell, and store crypto assets or cryptocurrencies. And then you have your everyday person who is interested in this concept. Maybe they heard about it at a dinner or something and they just want to sign up. They're watching a movie and they want a quick way or easy way to buy and sell. Now, if you speak to those two segments, each one is going to talk about different needs. They have different wants, and ultimately, you can't build the same thing for everyone. So you have to figure out who it is that you're trying to serve first, and then have a plan on, okay, if we do this thing right, we're going to then move over to the next segment and build something for them.
Amazing. Is there a framework or a rule of thumb that you would advise people to think about when identifying their target user or their sort of target audience?
I think, obviously it would depend on whatever it is, the industry that you're serving. But again, a normal distribution curve or graph is a good way to think about it. Most people are going to lie in the middle. And while it's good to speak to them, they won't be representative of the first group of users who really use your product and then help spread the word. In crypto assets or cryptocurrencies, for example, you find that in every social circle, there is a go-to person who is a crypto expert. And that's the person that people are usually going to go and speak with and ask for advice. So instead of building for everyone else, you want to build for those experts, the people that really need your service, that your service would impact the most. And then from there on, you can start to reach more users. So I'd say look at a normal distribution, try to find those extreme users, whether it's extreme detractors, people who would never touch your product and understand why, or people who would obsess over your product and understand why they think that way, and then move from there rather than focusing on the generalists who aren't really interested one way or the other or don't have strong opinions about what you're trying to do.
Okay. Fantastic. And let's switch tracks a little bit. So you mentioned failing fast and learning quickly, which is something I think we all hear all the time. And I'm going to ask you how you actually put that in practice. How many people currently work at Rain, Yehia?
We're over 460, I believe.
Okay. So we've gone through the stages of being, 5 people, 100 people, 200 people. How do you build a culture of failing fast, and how do you institute learning, right, across an organization, however big that startup may be?
That's a really good question. So the first thing is about the mindset. We're not approaching everything as if it's a test. If you have a plan for something and it doesn't work out the way you want, you didn't fail. It's not, you just look at what you did, think about why did it not work out the way you wanted it to, but most importantly, have a data-driven approach. With tech products, you're afforded a lot of tools that give you the ability to measure and really dive into the data. So I'd say one way we do this is it doesn't really matter whose opinion it is. It's more about what does the data say, and then how can we interpret it in different ways. So that's one. The other is about continuous improvement and just having this mindset of we'll try something out for a week or two. If it doesn't work, we'll just regroup, figure out what to do next, and move from there. Ultimately, having this iterative mindset and leading by example through interpreting the data is how you build this culture.
And what are some of the tools that you suggest as data gathering tools to kind of understand if we're on track or not on track?
It would depend on the context. Ultimately, you want to understand why is this desired reaction or desired action not happening? Where are people struggling with what you're doing? Where is the disconnect? Or why is the magnitude of the desired results not equal to what you wanted them to be? And that could be, you're applying a principle that's not really relevant. For example, if you look at marketing and measuring ROI on marketing, there are different ways that you can market your product, or there are different ways where you can target potential users. And you just have to keep trying different ideas, different approaches. And then on users' behavior, it's very important to dive into the data and think of whatever hypothesis that you have, but also bring in fresh perspectives, different people from the team, from different backgrounds, who might be able to interpret things in a different way. What a user wants in Turkey is different than Pakistan, is different than the UAE. So looking at the data with one lens won't really get you the insights that you need. So you have to contextualize it, think about which market you're trying to serve, and then take it from there.
And in the process and the journey of building a company and scaling it, what are some of the very frequent mistakes or the common mistakes that you guys have made that you think other founders can learn from?
We experienced tremendous growth at Rain, and we went from, I think it was 90 team members in 2020 to close to 400 at the end of 2021. And I'd say nothing really prepares you for that. As much as possible, we try to keep the organization flat, and we try to make sure that everyone has access to the information that they need as fast as possible. One thing we could do, looking back, if I were to do this all over again, really identifying the different groups and teams within a company and what they do allows new members who come in to figure out what resources exist within the company. So by virtue of this growth, sometimes people didn't know that we had someone working on this topic or that. So ensuring that there's continuous communication across the company helps you avoid that.
And so I think communication can be an issue whether you're 20 people or whether you're 400. So what are some of the solutions that you guys developed that were successful to solve that exact problem?
We've been working remotely since 2017. So this was something that we've had for quite some time. And we encourage people to have their cameras on, for example, because it adds another layer to the communication. Another thing is around, is this message best sent on Slack, for example, or is it probably better a one-page document that people can collaborate on? If you're having an issue with someone, maybe it's just best to get on a call with them and explain to them what the issue is rather than sending messages back and forth. So I'd say understanding how to use the tools that exist and in which context they're most relevant helps you maximize your communications impact with whomever it is that you're communicating with.
Amazing, thank you. And just one more question, which is, what is your one piece of advice that you would like to give to the founders that are listening to this?
Just get started. Don't wait for the perfect moment. And if you're not really embarrassed by your first iteration of your product, then you're probably waiting too soon. And sometimes we think about, the perfect launch or the perfect idea instead of thinking about, okay, how do I build this sustainable culture and mentality of continuous improvement? So just get started would be my advice.
Thank you so much, Yehia, for that incredible insight.
Thank you, Noor. It's been a pleasure. Good luck to everyone. Thank you.